Good evening, family. Tonight we will be discussing dead Black people in America. Blacks who are dying at a rate that we could never imagine, at a percentage of a people who are at 12 to 13% in this country, and wondering, are we moving towards 8 to 9%? My name is Shirley Hussar. You're watching Shirley's World. I am also the CEO of Urban Game Changers. We go into urban communities. We hold elected officials accountable as well as ourselves. If we don't have self accountability for what is going on at this point in history, we will continue to be stepped over, walked over, and bamboozled. As a culture of people, if we continue on to be bamboozled, we will not be able to progressively move forward or move anywhere. We will still be set aside and pushed aside for immigrants, illegal immigrants, and migrants in this country. COVID-19 has affected many people around the world. It's a world pandemic, a pandemic that is unacceptable in everyone's eyes, that it came out of Wuhan, China, but yet in the Black community of America, it has affected us the most. But the question is, I want to ask my people and every other person who may not be Black on this video, I want to ask you, so what? So what if Black people die? Because that is the response that we're getting from the White House and the governors and even Black people. Because if Black people are not upset, if Black people aren't putting something together to amend the loss that we have and the continual losses that we're getting, and how Black communities are being affected because of our nutritional values, the things that we don't have in our stores, then what good is it about reopening America? So tonight we have a special guest. We have two special guests. One of the gentlemen's name is Tomorrow. And of course, you know, MC 007 is on board with us tonight. These gentlemen are are special guests because they served in the armed forces. And I'll let them share their story and their ideas. But before I go into it, I want to share with you what I found out from the White House that came out yesterday. And basically, what it's doing, it is telling us right here, this is the new guidelines. There's 3 steps in the guidelines. So I want to talk about reopening America and President Trump. And I'm going to give this link to you so that you can, at your own time frame, realize that there's phases that they set as far as the guidelines. There's 3 phases. Phase 1 has to do with being in the public, open door, recreation. Let me make that larger. Recreation. Phase 1 also talks about shopping areas, distancing on social settings of more than 10 people, that are appropriate distances between. Also in phase 1, it talks about, and it's interesting in this phase 1 right here that it talks about 10 people, because I say to myself, if you're in bars or if you go to the parks or recreation centers, they've already said, at least in Los Angeles, that they're not going to do any more sports events or games until 2021. Now, keep in mind, COVID-19 is talked about. They're creating a second phase. There is a second phase of COVID-19. Employers and what they can do to you. And as employees, how does it affect you? It talks about that right here. Specific things for employers, especially with senior living facilities. They're going to start changing. There's some new normals that are going to be put in place. You need to be informed about that. After phase 1 seems to see that the numbers are not going to be escalating, meaning COVID-19, we're going into the second phase of COVID-19. Again, opening up from 10 to 50 people, where before it was 10 to 50 people. Now, that time frame, it doesn't tell us that. That's another questionable thing. So is this going to be September or October before we get to phase 2? I don't know. All I know is that the government is saying that the states are allotted to make those decisions from each governor, and Gavin Newsom won't even get to phase 1. Okay, so that's a whole nother conversation. And then we get to phase 3, where it's supposed to get back to pretty much a normal lifestyle that we're used to in America. But I want to ask you again, like I told you, there are Black people who are dying with COVID-19. And my question, does anyone really care about the Blacks dying in America? Let's watch this video and then we'll bring our guests in. I want to stop right here because I want you to understand at least 125 people in Illinois died in the last 24 hours at the time of the release of this video. And the toll continues upward. Illinois has what? African American people. Black people in Illinois are dying at a rate that a lot of it, I've been told from people in Mississippi, they're not telling you that they have even higher numbers. So the press is suppressing really true Black numbers. And we as African American people and Africans around the country and the globe are being targeted. So it's just not Black people, it's also Africans. Anyone of the African diaspora, our lineage of Africans are being affected by COVID-19 and being targeted and bigoted and pushed out. And I wanted you to see these numbers. I also want to mention convenience. Isn't it convenient that we still have to rely on China to provide testing, to provide equipment and tools to combat COVID-19, which came out of Wuhan, China? We all know how this is all a setup, but I want you to see how it all ties together, where we are still dependent upon a system, being an African-American dependent people, upon how China has invaded us here in America as well as Africa. And I'm going to stop it right here. African American people are dying at a rate that we can't even imagine because we don't know real numbers. We don't know real statistics, but we do know real effects. Obviously, we know real effects because of the morgue is telling us that there's a lot of Black people. So how government operates, how the military is dealing with this issue, they have a different mindset, family. They have a different perspective of how we should look at this whole perspective of the pandemic that we've been dealing with. And so I want to ask you, if we're going to talk about reopening America and the betterment of America, what is it that we need to do to make those changes? And so I want to bring some amazing people in, these three amazing gentlemen who I truly admire. I'm going to start off. You guys already know 007. 007, come on in and tell us who you are. And I don't want to go into the story part of what you're talking about, but from what you can see right now, Illinois has mentioned numbers that are unbelievable. What's your take on those numbers and your perspective of why are Blacks dying? Why are we dying?
Well, my name is Mike. I'm 007, and I've been in the Marine Corps for 22 years, 7 months, Chief 1 Officer 3. I, by far, I've never been with a special operations, but I've been attached to special operations. I've did several tours overseas from Iraq to Somalia, Desert Shield. And I'm just going to give you my observation on what's going on. I have been to Wuhan, China some years ago. It's a very beautiful city. However, for anyone that has been to China, it has always been the norm that some of the people there wear masks because the pollution there is so bad. So, I mean, them wearing the mask is nothing. But now we're getting ready to look like China. Because we're getting ready to wear masks, possibly up to 2022. So that's one of the new norms. And to really put I'm not a doctor, but I can say this much: how the numbers have affected the Black community in terms of the coronavirus is very crazy, because I'm hearing that the disparity as far as healthcare, that's alarming. And it seems like the Democrats have never did anything about that, because that's their primary voters. Those are the primary supporters of it. And in less than 1% of Afro Americans could only qualify for Obamacare. So where is this disparity, or when is this disparity is going to be addressed? And it seemed like they said something. They said, hey, Afro Americans are dying at an alarming rate, but there's nothing done after that. And what is going to take place now, and what needs to take place? My solution is basically they need to find out why we're dying at alarming rates. And I mean, yes, we have heart disease. Yes, we do have diabetes, high blood pressure, but that can't be the sole reason. It has to be service within the Medi-Cal system. How are we getting served in the hospital? What resources that the hospitals have in Black communities? When we talk about outpatient care, when we look at outpatient medicine, are we doing yearly checkups? And I know Black men got this bad. We don't want to go and do yearly checkups. And so we got to have somebody talk us into it. But we need to really start looking at what we're doing as well, but not letting the government not letting people just saying this to use this as a political point. Because I believe at some point the coronavirus has been going on for a long time, and Afro-American people haven't came up. And now all of a sudden we are coming up. But the fact is, when we came up, there's nothing behind it. There's nothing being done about what they're saying that's happening.
Absolutely.
So I have a real big concerns with that. And it's convenient to use race whenever they want to, have a legitimate reason to start trying to treat us. And, Eric Garcetti, and I said this the other day, he wants to start testing people so they can go back to work. And that's there's a legitimate reason to sit up here and test Black people, and just because somebody gonna look at us, because we don't know what the test consists of.
Well, they're saying that what they want to do is create an immunity card. And in this immunity card, it has 4 levels. And I'm going to show that video in a second. But also, he wants to have blood work tests done. So that's the crazy part. Mike, hold your thoughts 1 second. I want to bring in Tomorrow. Today, he is an amazing person. Tomorrow, can you share a little bit about who you are, and a little bit of let me put you back in there. Okay. Tomorrow, can you share a little bit of who you are and what's your perspective of this whole COVID-19? You have to unmute yourself, and share a little bit about your time of serving in the military. What differences do you think are happening, and why are Black people dying? I think that's always the question. And what is going to be done? Gotta unmute yourself. Okay, as he figures out, he'll probably come back. He probably has to step away. But Mike, I think what you're saying brings a lot of value and credence to the table. That what we're saying, if people don't really recognize and don't have a really understanding of how the governor and the governor as well as the mayor play a big part in our voices at the table. You mentioned Gavin Newsom. Let me go ahead, and for those of you guys who didn't watch me the other day, I'm going to show you where Gavin Newsom basically said, we're going to put an immune card together. We're going to make it so that you guys will have to have some kind of blood work test. Some people I've had people say in Texas, they think this is the new mark of the beast. Yeah. Are you going to allow this to happen?
Yeah.
You know, I think that's the key thing. Hold on, let me put this up real quick so you guys can see this, and then we'll take it from here.
We're still not sure how this.
We'll take it from here. So let me go live real quick with this one. As tomorrow, they can't hear you, so when you have a chance, see if you can figure out how to unmute yourself. I'm going to go ahead and I want to show you guys this video. And this was yesterday's video for those who might have missed it. I'm going to talk about Eric Garcetti. Let's talk about what 007 just mentioned about what is going on in Los Angeles. Eric Garcetti announced today that there may be what they call the immune card. And I wanted to share that real quick before we change our broadcast over to the ADOS channel. But the immune card is something I think you need to pay attention to. Here we go.
Any questions tonight. Thank you to John and to Alex as well. So Alex, an immunity card is an interesting thing, and it's something we certainly are looking at closely. But it also depends on how many people are quote unquote immune. The blood test, the serology test that we will need to see whether people have had coronavirus, and that researchers are still trying to confirm, but early research shows that it probably should provide at least some immunity in the medium term. We're still not sure how this novel coronavirus will act and COVID-19's impact will be. It could be like a cold that you develop some immunity to, and in future years, you when it either changes or when that immunity wears off.
So what an immunity card is a card that they're saying that you're going to need to work by. Now, I want you to listen. He just announced this today. He's at Crenshaw Christian Center, which is out of Los Angeles, which is my home church. They are working in conjunction with Garcetti and the city of Los Angeles now, allowing them to do COVID-19 testing. The immunity card requires blood testing. The blood testing for COVID-19 will be different than the nozzle testing. It's a total different testing that's required. Mike, what do you think about this right now?
I don't trust it. I mean, I don't trust it because.
And you're from LA, you're military. Tell me why.
This seemed like something China would do. This seemed like something Ecuador would do. Communist countries that because you got a lot of people that come from communist countries that don't have a problem with it because they want to stay here. And I mean, and that's probably one of the biggest reasons they drive illegals up in here because they don't have a problem with anything.
So they're driving African-American people out and driving in immigrants and illegal immigrants. We're dying nationally. We have the lowest amount of Black people. We're at 6 to 9%. And then here's Eric Garcetti talking about he want to do some blood tests. And you're saying that they want us like China. And but Black people don't see that. And neither do white people see that, and they don't see a problem with that. What's wrong with these people?
Well, you know, the thing is that what I've seen in terms of people said this is, you know, don't divide it because there's no division. It is a division because it seemed like the Democrats are more likely wanting to treat people like guinea pigs. They are not really into trying to get the economy up and going. They're not trying to help people with any kind of funds to further their really bad mitigating situations. They're not trying to, they're trying to basically continue to get in power. And
they have all the power. Listen, they already have all the power in the state. The Republicans.
Right, and exactly, and that's where I was going with that. Okay. State and locally. In this state, you know, we're you know, I'm not trying to scare anyone, but I believe we're in a very, very vulnerable situation for people that know what's going on and people that doesn't know what's going on is basically saying okay to this. And this is not okay. And so how are you going to say this is not okay to somebody coming from a communist country? This is normal to them. And so they're not going to say nothing about it. But the fact is that you got people from this country that are sitting up here saying, well, if this is for the best, and they're listening to communists. And I don't care what nobody say, that's what they are. And
I totally agree. Hold on, let's finish watching the video and I'm gonna let you talk some more. I think tomorrow is gonna be able to come back in after this video. Hang in there tomorrow. With this immunity card, it'll allow you to have different levels of working.
If you could be susceptible again. But if we could have that, it would allow us to, as we've seen in other cities, for instance, in Wuhan, China, they have a green yellow, and red system.
I'm gonna stop right there. What did he say? He said Wuhan, China. Mike, what did it take?
He's bringing communism here. And so because there's many other ways that we can do this, and the thing is that what's wrong with what the swab, why are we taking blood work?
Why do they need blood testing? Because we know if they take your blood, they can do a lot of testing with that.
Yeah, I mean, so they're going beyond. They're going beyond than what they need to go, and to me that's striking into medical privacy and things of that nature.
Ooh.
And my thing is that what's crazy is that the only ones that are protected from this is people that are veterans that's basically attending the VA. Because now we can go to the VA and get our work, and we can go and show them our stuff. But the fact, if you're seeing a doctor at the VA, that's what we call private government medical care. So that we're in a different situation.
Hold your thought. Let me finish this out, and then I'm gonna go back to bringing tomorrow in.
Red means that you still are susceptible, or that you potentially have COVID-19. Green is that you have this immunity, and yellow is that you're in a quarantine state. This would be something.
Now he said, now in other cities, now grant you, Wuhan, China is in China. China operates under communism, dictatorships, authoritarianism, ideology, and law, citizens that have to abide by that law. Here's a man in America telling us that in the city of Los Angeles, we should pattern ourselves after a city. Listen to what he's saying. After a city that is controlled and ran by dictators of authoritarianism, of a communist regime that is requiring you to have a card of different colors to determine your level of infection and how much they will allow you to be exposed to the people of your livelihood.
That would allow more people to go to work, allow more people to go to school. But my worry is that our success here in flattening the curve, while the best news is it saved lives, it also means most of us have not been exposed to the coronavirus and COVID-19.
I'm going to stop there. He said, allow you to go to school and go to work. So think of the opposite. They're not going to allow you to go to work. They're not going to allow your child to go to school until they all get these blood testings made from you and allocate these cards upon you.
Yes, exactly.
I'm going to stop it right there. What kind of America is this man talking about? What kind of America are we living in, Mike? Come on, man.
This needs to be challenged. This definitely needs to be challenged, because you can just exclude Black people out of work. And so how long is this is supposed to last till this is supposed to last until 2022. So you're going to exclude people from going to work. Now it's going to even get deeper than that, because basically you're going to say, okay, well, you got to go get treatment. And so now we're looking at Tuskegee experiment all over again, because it said, what is this treatment? And see, let's remember, Los Angeles, the city of Los Angeles, has had a partnership with China since the Mayor Bradley administration.
That's true.
And so
slow down, go back and make people need to know this. This is important. You guys pay attention. Make sure you get the like buttons and the share buttons. Say that again. What is Mayor Bradley? This is a Black mayor that opened up the door for the Asian community to have an economic empowerment in your community. This is what Mike is really saying here, that you guys got to understand. Mayor Tom Bradley did this to California. And so because we have this epidemic going on now, the aftermath of that about 20, 30 years ago is affecting us today. This is why we're at the numbers that we have, and this is why we have these people filtrating in our communities, and we're not saying anything. Go ahead, 007.
Yeah. The thing is that, Mayor Bradley opened up the doors for China to be accepted in the city of Los Angeles, as well as tourism. So, the biggest tourism in Los Angeles is China. I would say, I think it's like 50-something $million or more tourism from China. I mean, we're talking conferences and just tourism, period. China has been on board with Los Angeles since the Mayor Bradley's uh, administration. He opened that door. And so Garcetti and many others behind Mayor Bradley have welcomed China. So if you go downtown Los Angeles or you go to Chinatown, let's remember it wasn't officially Chinatown until Mayor Bradley officially said it was Chinatown. He opened up more businesses, had more businesses open, more banks come from China to Los Angeles. So when you have your bank here, it's like having your country here. And tell me, anybody can just tell me how many Chinese people you see in Bank of America, how many Chinese people you see in Chase. They do not bank at our banks.
Mm.
They do not, and they bank at their own banks. So this is how they're able to get SBA loans and all these other grants that they get to open up their businesses. And so when they move their country into this country, these cities, people
Whoa,
don't
whoa,
understand.
whoa, whoa, whoa. Did you just say when they move their country into this country? Let's pause right there, family.
When they move their banks into this country,
Oh,
they
yeah, but
move
I
in.
love what you said that when they move their country into this country with
Mhm.
their wealth. That's a powerful statement, what you're saying there, a
Right.
007. Go ahead.
Right. When they move their banks here, they're moving their country here. And
Mm,
so they're able to operate and have a cash flow to stabilize themselves. They don't go to our banks to buy a home. They go to their banks. And you got to remember that bank is funneling money from Los Angeles to China. So they don't need us, and that's why for many, many, many years they have never got into politics because they don't have to. So their money speaks for themselves. So this is why we always see them in our communities and why our banks don't service us or give us loans or give us any grants because we don't have that support
right.
between our country. They do. And so they are basically looking at some point taking this over. And I think I said this to a friend of mine. There are more Asians here, which is like Hispanics or illegals from Hispanic countries like to say they hide behind the shadows. They're not hiding behind those shadows. It's mainly Asians are hiding behind shadows because you don't see them. You don't see as many of them, but there's about 3 times as many of them here than Hispanics are. It's
Absolutely.
just that it just does not. You don't see it, but I guarantee you're going to start to see it.
I agree with you because they kind of live in their little quadrants and areas. I told you they don't assimilate. They segregate themselves, and they segregate themselves, and then they build on that. Hold on one thought. Tomorrow, are you in yet? Can you unmute yourself? I know you've been trying to unmute yourself. Tomorrow, are you there?
Hello, Shirley. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, and Mike is there too. So Mike is ex-Marine. We had just heard from an ex-Marine giving his perspective of the tactics that we're seeing from communist regime moving into the states. Now, President Trump has said that he is not going to federalism is not what he's going to suppress, which means that he's not going to step in. He's going to allow these governors to govern. But now the governors are kind of moving towards a Chinese regime, and what we're seeing, especially with blacks dying in America. Can you tell them who you are, Mr. Tomorrow, and what did you used to do, and what's your perspective on the subject matter?
Well, hello, 007, and hello, Shirley, and thanks for inviting me on your channel. I appreciate it. A little bit about my background. I was U.S. Navy. I did that for about 13 years. In terms of the solution, you already know, having spoken to me offline, my perspective is always a policy prescription. And you and I have worked towards that already. So I really like to speak towards the solution more than anything. In terms of the COVID-19 issue, I really don't have a lot to say on that. That's a byproduct of us not having the tools we need in our own community to bring about the lifestyle we like to live. So once we get to that particular section of the topic today, then I'd like to chime in.
No, I appreciate that. Let me ask you this. You don't live in California. You're in another state. Why do you think California is so liberal? I know because of the candidates that we have, but from a person from outside, me and 007, we live here. You don't live here. What is your take when you see the craziness that we're embarking upon here with the suppression of communism coming from a local government standpoint?
Once again, sure, these aren't topics that I could really speak on in terms of having knowledge. So I like to only speak and stay focused on the things that I have knowledge about.
I appreciate that. Let's move on. So if we're going to look at making America open again, and we're going to talk about opening again, we as Black people do need to have solutions. We do need to have strategies. And the only strategies we're going to have is number one, we are going to have to recognize we're failing ourselves. And the reason why we as African American are failing ourselves because we're not coming together and we're waiting on that government subsidy, that government supply of knowledge and kind of they're going to take care of us. They're going to always have our back. And we get that same story of the Charlie Brown, where Charlie Brown has seen Lucy with the football and he runs down the aisle and he thinks Lucy's going to hold the ball for him and Lucy pulls the ball away. That's the government. And who's Charlie Brown? Well, that's you. That's you and me expecting our leadership to step to the plate. But guess what? They're not going to step to the plate. And the only plate that is going to be stepped up to is those of us who are here who want to have solutions in place. But currently, right now, living in California, I can tell you, like we heard from 007, that we have people who are in this state right now who are not working in our best interest. And a matter of fact, they're unconstitutional in their actions, and we're seeing the repercussions coming from the people. Many states have already opened, like Florida, parts of Florida, their beaches have opened, and other smaller states and smaller communities have said, we are going to take the risk and we're going to open up, like the flowers. But like I had mentioned before, in New York and New Jersey, when you have a culture of people, listen to where I'm coming from, hit the like buttons and share this video. When you have a culture of people like in New York, where they are suppressed. Why are they suppressed? Because they live like stacks and rats and roaches on top of each other. And then you also have the fact that the air ventilation system in a lot of these buildings are processed in shared air. And so a lot of these people are sick. And that's why you had mass numbers of people sick in New York. And if you've ever been in New York, it's a very, very filthy city. California is a little bit more spread out. So we don't have the numbers that New York have. The problem California has is communism. The problem California has is, as I've shared in previous videos, that the Chinese community has graduated to a level that you could not imagine of how many people are Asian descent living here who have purposely segregated themselves in quadrants of areas and then taken that area and just blew up off the Wilshire district. There's a town called Koreatown where they made their money off of Black people with the hair industry. And now they have Korean districts. And after they have districts, they're going to start changing the city to Korean districts. Just what Mike said is very true. And I know we want to move into solutions, but I have to make it very potent that you guys understand what me and Mike are trying to make you have a clarity of. If you don't see what we're trying to show you about to come about, it too will happen to you. And if you want that to happen to you, you need to not be awoken. But if you want to be awake, you pay attention and you will share this video. I'm going to go back to Mike real quick. Mike, let me ask you, let's start with solutions. Tomorrow wants to talk about solutions. I want to talk about solutions. One of the solutions, now we heard that the president I showed you open up America. We saw Gavin Newsom talk about communism. What is the solutions for Black people in regards to the COVID-19? What can we do?
Black people need to get more involved in their government and understand that we need to work through policy to resolve a lot of the things that we don't have per se. Like I said about the health disparity, let's look at you know, the reason we need to really look at trying to, get better healthcare, quality healthcare. And why is it that we don't have the healthcare that they're talking about? Because obviously they know it, but we need to really look at working policy in. And when we vote, we need to make an exchange. We need to exchange our policies so they can understand that we we exist. I mean, here in California, I truly believe a lot of the government here does not know we exist. And
Well, now, I'm gonna hold your thought. What do you mean by that? Because you got Maxine Waters, you got Karen Bass. These are people who are legislators in California. For you guys who don't live here, you've got senators and congressmen, and you've got state assembly. It's like it's the assemblymen. You've got city council people. You've got Black people who are here. So, what voice are you talking about? Because that can confuse people. What do you mean by that?
well, what I mean by that is basically we're just silent and we're just there for the ride, and we're not saying anything as to how these people are treating us. You have an old guard, which a lot of baby boomers are content, and what's going on. Not only that is that we only see these people when it's time to vote. They don't include us at all, and I think we got to look at it too. The reason why they don't include us because we sit quiet.
Mm.
You
Okay,
know,
anybody sit quiet because we some loud people. We talk. We're emotional. What do you mean quiet?
Emotionalism is not going to get you anything but confusion.
Mm.
You know, we need to really, the protesting is all good, but to resolve anything, we need to sit down and we need to talk about a solution as to why we're at a disparity as far as medical care. We need to really sit down and talk about why we're only 6% in the state of California and what is going to be done about it and what we have to do about it. We're not forcing any issues here to resolve anything. And we have a lot of people making conversation, which is conveniently okay, to some people. But you have what's her name, Congresswoman Bass.
Karen Bass.
Karen Bass. She plays more to Hispanics than she do Black people. Um, I've went to her town hall meetings before the this quarantine took place. Anytime somebody had some solutions into, first of all, when you say Black, they shut you up real quick.
Mm.
And that's also Maxine Waters. So, and then Black people are, so you have the have and the have-nots, and you have more of the haves. And a lot of the young people that's going to college here, or majority of Black students go to HBCUs from here. So they don't come back. And I don't think nobody watches that. Or they go to college somewhere else out of state and they don't come back.
Right.
Because it's too expensive to stay here. And so the job market is just too overwhelming. And when you hear Hispanics talk about, well, hey, I'm coming back here to my community to make a difference, we don't hear Black people saying that because they have something that does not legitimately, well, it should belong to them, but does not belong to them, and that's the community. And I think they say, hey, I'm just leaving, I'm getting up out of here. And so,
I agree with you. So let me ask you this: solutions. We all keep talking about solutions. Let's look at government as a whole. Right now, the Constitution is being challenged. We the people, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice and domestic tranquilities. There's no domestic tranquility. We've been saying that for the longest, and the pandemic has taken it to another level. When we talk about reparations as African-American descendants of slaves going back to 1619, will we get reparations? There will be no reparations. Let me pre-warn any of you guys. Hate to say this to you. I'm going to give it raw. I'm going to give it real. Because of this pandemic, you have moved lower than the totem pole. Because of the pandemic, you have moved lower than the totem pole. The president, the governors, the mayors, city council, Congress, assemblymen, senators, House of Representative people, they know that you are the lowest of the totem pole. Just because someone is Black and that is an elected official, you have made the assumption, we all have made the assumption throughout the duration of these last 40, 50 years that these Negroes care about you. You are nothing to them. You mean nothing to them but a pawn and a tool on the chessboard to leverage their position of whatever they want. And in conclusion, you are getting nothing. This is the point I want you to understand. Share and like, get this video up. Because these professional men who are ex-military are trying to let you know, Houston, there is a problem. Black America, there is a problem. And that problem is you are saying nothing. And if you want solutions, we need to write them down. We need to have some concrete solutions. That's why I've told you, I put my personal email out there. We are having conversations with many of you who watch me who want to be part of the private dialogue that we're having offline to discuss a solution-based order that we need to present to the president and that we need to present to the local level, because our schools, our markets, I'm going to let Tomorrow come in a second, but I want Mike to talk about the markets in Los Angeles. I've showed you videos where the doctors are being targeted. Black doctors are being arrested for helping homeless Black people. Black nurses are not being informed that people have COVID-19 on their floor. I've personally gone to the markets and found out the Black workers don't have gloves, but the Latino workers in Los Angeles, they have gloves. So I purposely stopped, took extra gloves that I have in my purse, and I gave them to the workers that are Black. They are privately targeting the extinction of your people. You know it, I know it, and the government and the people know it, but nothing is happening. If you want to make a change in this, now is the time. Election is coming up. Now is the time. Time to bite and to address the issue. If we're going to sit back and throw stones at each other and say who's better and who's not better, and if we're going to put time and talk about Republican and Democrat, we are going to still be in that totem pole bottom level, a bottom base, no good Negro level for the rest of our lives. This is not helping the next generation. They want to wipe your generation out. You see these white, liberal, progressive, men-hating white women out there targeting our young Black women, trying to get them angry and mad at every Black man in America. You know, the LGBT, EFG people have relied on the civil rights cards that we have in place. Every time we get a piece of legislation or some type of grant or proposal that says minority, that makes the fact that we have to be this inclusive. Inclusiveness has not helped us because they are not inclusive. The brown does not say Black. Black says brown. We've said it. I've said it over the years, and I'm done. And I would ask you to do the same and say, let's talk about the descendants of Negroes. And you can identify these people through their ID and the new ID, which is requiring several steps before you get this ID. And many of you guys may not like it, but it's the only way you're going to be able to travel throughout America. And that'll be our passport to say, look, I am truly African-American because it's on my birth certificate. Because what you don't know is that the illegals and the immigrants in California have stole our IDs, have taken our information from being homeless, and they file taxes, act like they're us, utilize our credit, are able to get tax return under the name of a Black person who is homeless right now in California. Nobody cares about Black people. Black people are worthless in the eyes of white America, in the eyes of Black America. Black celebrities don't give a damn ass about us. They have all this money, and I showed you where Rihanna, now I've been told up to $5 million, they want to help these international groups other than the descendants of slaves. Now, grant you, Rihanna is not Black American, and I think she's a fabulous artist. But a lot of these fabulous artists who have African descent come to America. We pander, we help them become wealthy like Jay-Z and all the rest of them. And then when it comes to putting money specifically within our community, we don't see the aftermath of that. So for every action is a reaction. For every non-action, this is the aftermath of Blacks who are not focused on Blacks, who are not focused on African Americans. Same problem Africa's having. Don't get it twisted. Africa right now is dealing with the fact they allowed the Chinese community to filtrate into their homeland. And now they're dealing with Chinese people who are mean, who are violent, who have incarcerated their people, infected their people, and allowed their people to die. And yet the African nations and kings and leaders of Africa have pandered because of money. They're still selling us in Africa as we are a commodity in America today. 007, can you share real quick? We're going to go on solutions because I know that's what tomorrow is here for to talk. But I want you to share something that you said about these markets, the quality of things that are going into, let's say, Studio City or Brentwood or Beverly Hills when it comes to our community with our markets and regarding apparel and what is it, alcohol and bleach wipes. Y'all, we ain't getting them in the hood. What the hell is that about? Go ahead, 007. Share your thoughts on that one.
Well, I mean, I was talking to people in the community, and as well as I've observed down in the stores, particularly in Inglewood. There was also a Ralph's in LA, and both of them had the same answer, that they don't know what they're going to get. So, because I asked them, I said, "Well, about the Clorox wipes." Well, you guys haven't had Clorox wipes within the last 2 or 3 weeks. It's like when you guys put them on the shelf, if they come here, and the store employee says they haven't been here in over 3 weeks, but I can go over to a white store and get Clorox wipes, or I can go on base and get Clorox wipes as well. I have that privilege, but a lot of people don't. But at the same time, the service that is that these inner city stores are getting is not good. And to even put this into policy, that needs to be put into policy on things that we need to really address. Because even a couple of weeks ago, I saw there was no meat in the stores, in the Ralphs and in other stores that I went to. They were just clearly out, They said we probably won't get anything until Wednesday. It's just a distribution that inner cities get. And I think that needs to be included in policies, that if we ever address how we are being treated, we need to really address how these markets are getting served and how it serves our community. And it's the quantity, because, I mean, to be fair with you, if there was a food shortage, I think we would feel it first.
Say that again. Say that again.
And so really, I think what Black people need to do is really look at seeing what's coming out.
Right.
Because the COVID-19 has actually addressed and actually pulled stuff up out the surface and seeing, hey, these are your problems. But you didn't recognize it was a problem until now. So you have, what's that? Food for Less, which is Ralph's own. And so, that's pretty much meat or anything that Ralph's couldn't sell. And so we need to really understand, I think as we were talking, what's his name, wanted to talk about policy, we need to address these things in policy. because we have gotten so comfortable in our oppression that it's okay to get treated like this. And so we have people that just vote 1 year or whatever, and they leave it alone. And if there's a problem, see, and the thing is, I think something really got to affect us. But this really is affect.
But you're saying something's really got to affect us. I don't think this is any more effective. Hold on a second. I don't think this is going to be any effective than what is already affecting us. I mean, now we already know
exactly.
This is an issue, and we're at a critical point of an election year where we're seeing what we're encountering, and then it's a pandemic. It's happening worldwide. How Black treated in China and being pushed out of the street. American Blacks as well as Africans. Don't get it twisted. They got American Blacks who decided to go to China for some god known reason, and they're pushed out as homeless. And they got pictures of Blacks that are homeless. But if we're gonna, I want to bring in a little taste of Africa and what they're talking about. But before I do, I really want to talk about America a little longer. And I want tomorrow tell the family solutions. Let's talk about solutions tomorrow. There has to be a type of strategy, but if we talk about strategy, what should be included in that strategy? Where do we start tomorrow? I know you share some things with me. What would you like to share with the family on the stream right now?
Can you hear me, Shirley?
Yes, I can.
I know you. I've known you for about 3 years, I believe. And,
yes.
And you and I have had long night discussions talking about policy, the policy prescription. That's what's needed to really fundamentally fix the position that we're in. And in saying that, that means we need to have a representation in government. We don't need to have the facade of representation like we see with different agencies that are committees that have established themselves, like the CBC, which doesn't clearly support Black people in our initiatives and the things that we need to have that affect us and impact us in our communities. In saying that, when you look at the different ethnic groups or the ethnic caucuses that are in place, they are designed to advocate from this government things for their particular group. If we're not prepared to create a group that does what's needed specifically for our group, then we will always continue to be diluted and not receive the things that we're supposed to get as a group that have legitimate claims in this country for what was done to us. In the same manner as Indians have their set-asides and their claims and their justifications to receive money from this government, we as Black people and descendants of slaves have those same claims. And it's just amazing to me how we don't see anyone in government, Black faces, that stand up and represent that Black people need to have something specific for them. We don't need to be included in the issues with Hispanic people. Their issues are their issues. The issues with every other group that have issues with this country that advocates for something from this government, it's their issues. So when you look at the caucuses, for example, and you look at what makes up those caucuses, the members, you won't see Black faces in any of those other caucuses. You go to the CBC, and it's sad because their mission is to be inclusive with other caucuses that do not have the same mission. So that fundamentally is a problem. So that's why I've been talking to you, Shirley, for a while about forming a caucus that will be exclusively advocating for Black people and our needs because we're hurting. And we're at a point now where it's almost a dire situation, if not already a dire situation. We're at the bottom and we need to fix that. And the way we're going to do that is with this current administration. I know a lot of people don't like Mr. Trump because of his tactics, how he speaks and whatnot. And that's their prerogative to feel that way. But the reality is we still have to engage the government, whether we like the political figures or not. So if we have organizations that are supposed to be supporting Black folks that won't even speak to the current administration, you mean to tell us we have to wait another 4 years to potentially go through this same process again, only to find that the next group of Black folks won't speak to the current administration because they don't like their policies, but we're not submitting anything to them to even consider, to even finance, to even help us to change our conditions. So that's stagnant. It's just keeping us in a revolving cycle of poverty, of no growth, and I don't see any value in that. So my solution to you would be, and what we've talked about repetitively, is we need to look at the current policies and opportunities that are in place to help Black people using the current system. One of them is the 8A certification. process, and it's shocking to me that a lot of people have never even heard of it. It's the letter 8, the letter A, certification. And these are set aside programs by the government for people of color. And I think it's part of our solution in creating a new committee, which is something that you can do without even having a business license. You can just form a committee based off of everybody's ideas, and you can submit that to the government in the form of a petition. And if the numbers are there, you'll have some traction from people in government who want your vote. And it's sad that we won't even do that. So I'm just a little frustrated, to be honest, Shirley, that we can't do the basics. And I feel like we have it within us to do that. We have a lot of access to information. And as much as I'm sharing a little bit of knowledge I have now, you can look and cross-check what I'm saying. Just look up how to form a committee. It doesn't cost anything. It's a petition. You put a petition together, and you create officers within that group, and you go to Washington and you try to advocate for support from one of these senators or one of these congressmen that are looking to really drive Black vote turnout. They're going to connect with you if we can have enough numbers. So, in as much as we have 20 million people in this country, we all need to be on a petition saying we need set asides. We need to have every Black business in America participating in 8A certifications, getting those set asides, Black-owned business statuses. That's just a certification. Veteran-owned business status, disabled-owned business status, woman-owned business status. The majority of the businesses that I speak to, Shirley, they don't even hold these certifications. So you can't even participate in government set-asides if you don't even have the certifications and the tools you need to even be considered. So that's what we need to start at, is educating people on what opportunities are out there. How do you go about acquiring these different certifications so we can actually start to hold the government accountable for not allowing Black folks to participate in something that they say that is set aside for them. If you look at most of these businesses in online, go to Walmart, Target, Macy's. At the bottom of their websites, you'll see a link that says diversity program. I'm curious to find out how many Black people, business owners, who are actually participating in these programs. I bet you it's very low. So I think that's what we need to start, is to target and tackle the things that are there for us to take advantage of, and do it in a strategic way to where we can use those numbers and go back to our government counterparts and say, listen, we have 10,000 people that have businesses that have participated in this program. Why aren't we getting any approvals? It makes the government have to look at itself in the mirror on these programs. But if we're not willing to do that, then we're just wasting our time.
So what I'm hearing you saying is we have to restructure ourselves right now. We need to look at the fact of where we are as individuals, because this is an opportunity where we need to think, depending on somebody else, including the government, is failing us. They're telling us to not pay rent for 3 months and 4 months in California, or don't pay your mortgage. And when you come out of this, there's going to be repercussions. And you're saying, even if there's repercussions, we should have been ready, right? We should have had the 8A set-aside contracts, which we don't know about, that are out there. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am. In fact, in part, what Mr. 007 was saying is true, with China having its own banks and bringing its own money. They're actually able to use those programs to help fund in our communities these stores, whether it be gas stations, whether it be wig shops or convenience spots or something like that. The state 8A program has, I think it's a one-time $6 to $8 million investment that they make. And this is structured through the federal government that's set aside, that's mandated to be spent. And no Black person if you look at most Black communities around the country, you'll find that most of the stores are owned by Arabs. And I have nothing against any of these people. But the problem with talking about unemployment, for example, well, the unemployment is the lowest in history. Well, that's wonderful and great, but we're employed. We're not owners. And that's what we need to focus on. Even the opportunity zones that Senator Tim Scott brought about. Where is that in their protections for Black people to say we need to own some of this this new business development in Black communities? So if the economic downturn comes again, more Black people are going to be more inclined to take care of their own versus people that aren't from your community who can just shut down and go somewhere else, who don't live in your community to begin with, and who don't invest in your community. So it doesn't make sense for us not to take advantage of these programs. We should have a thorough knowledge of them. We should be fully participating in them, and we should be overrunning these programs with Black business submissions.
I have to agree with what you're saying, brother. It's my thing is when we're looking at when those banks coming over from the Chinese or whatnot, man, so many federal programs and grants go through those banks because they can. Uh, and not only that is that I go to a lot of meetings, before this COVID-19, and one thing I've always told people, that's good to have a conversation, and we got good ideas. And I'm not saying what's on this, what we're talking about now, but I'm saying, one of the things is, we have a lot of people that are wrapped up in these churches, and and they're not doing anything. And what's crazy is that, like you said, there's a set aside. We're not even having these kind of conversations. And we get mad at Hispanics because I tell you this much. I think it was about a week ago. They said Hispanic caucus was just talking to President Trump, and I look at the Black caucus, and they haven't said anything to the man in 3 years, but they just insulted him. Here it is that the Hispanics are being deported out of here in record numbers, and their caucus is still talking. And I'll sit here and I'll talk to some of the people in the streets going, well, man, Trump is a racist. They can't talk to him. So we cut ourselves off. And we've cut ourselves off by believing in the Black caucus, by believing in a lot of these Black organizations. I just think that, let me stop saying think, but we need to also look at it locally because we're very much impacted here in California. We need to look at a caucus here in California. And I'll lead that charge, because Black people are hurting in California, because no one is going to these meetings. No one is going to these. Black people majority of us are sitting here and not engaged at all. And I mean, we don't see this as an issue. And like I said, I went out and talked to some people, and they saying, man, I got to get back to work and still. And I'm seeing Black businesses close because they can't deal with it anymore. They don't have that capital. Where Suk Lee and Lopez and Cisneros, they got a bank to go to carry them. And some businesses are not informed. And I look at what's her name, Congresswoman Bass's webpage, and she sends emails, but all she does is talk about how bad Trump is. That's not going to do anybody any good. That's just not.
So let me say this to you, gentlemen. What I'm hearing from both of you guys, we're talking about leverage, positioning ourselves, and then execution. Because if you cannot leverage yourself with some type of financial restitution, some type of, like we've heard about the certifications, which I want to go more into because what Tomorrow is stating is so true. And if we can identify that other people are able to leverage. Now, when we talk about wealth and opportunity within the Black community, I'm gonna go with to Ronald. Ronald said weed shops. I talked about this on the last video. Before it was we saw liquor stores, we had Jesus everywhere with the Jesus church people, and these Black older ministers who are dying at the masses nationwide, a lot of them because they didn't want to close their church down because they needed money. They live off of the Lord. So they didn't want to be responsible and staying home. A lot of their asses are old and they passed away. That's not a fool, it's not a wise thing to do. But fast forward in 2020, we don't have the churches and the alcohol as much, though it's still there. We're dealing with weed shops and Black people who really want to get into the weed industry, which are being blocked by Jews and Arabs. And what I'm hearing from Tomorrow is that we should pivot away from all those inner city vices that normally suppress us and keep us wrapped up in buffoonery and leverage ourselves into certifications. And maybe through these certifications, remember, this is about COVID-19 and having the money to deal with the fact that we are dying, Black people are dying, but Black people need money, Black people need to be positioned, and Black people need a person that can execute a leverage power. We're talking about leverage power, LLCs, S corporations, and utilizing the government as leverage like other minorities have done, because that is what he is truly talking about. Let me share with you a quick video. I want to get your take on this, both of you gentlemen. We talk about leveraging as minorities in this country.
Government contracting and minority-owned status. Hi, and welcome back to the Tenders Page channel. Maybe you've heard about minority-owned status before. Maybe you've heard of the 8A Business Development Program and wondered if it would help you get a leg up on the competition. Or maybe you're new to the whole idea of government contracting and want to know how you can make it work for you. Whatever your goals, you're probably interested in the set-aside funds and micro-purchases the federal government has ready for small businesses like yours. Before I mention anything else, 5% of the federal government's contracting budget is reserved for minority-owned businesses. To give you an idea of how much money that is, bear in mind that $23.85 billion were set aside for minority-owned businesses in 2011 alone.
So let me stop real quick. I want you to understand, now pay attention, get the thumbs up button, and I want to go a little deeper into understanding this. The word minority was originally set for Black people. Originally, its origin, minority meant Black, but it expanded and it went from Black to white women, to LGBTQ, to immigrants, to migrants. And you took this percentage of the $23 million. Imagine a pie you hold in your hand, and it's worth $23.85 billion. Excuse me, not million, $1 billion. Imagine that in your hand. Now you've got to give slices away. The Latinos come in, they take a good chunk. The Armenians come in, the Chinese take more than half of that chunk. Remember, this original sweet potato pie you hold in your hand was set aside for you. But because of you not being conscious of the utilization of government that had this set aside for you, the Indians come in and they also get a piece of that sweet potato pie. So fast forward, this is what you're dealing with. You're not getting all your money, and you're not getting pretty much nothing now. You're not a minority. You're just an aftermath.
In order to be competitive for that exclusive share of government contracts, businesses must not only be registered with the System for Award Management, but also apply and be accepted for registration under minority-owned status. So it's definitely worth your while to consider it. I want to give you a quick overview of minority-owned status and give you an idea of whether or not your organization qualifies. I'll tell you a little about the registration process and keep you informed on some of the added benefits of minority-owned status.
So let's stop right here. Tomorrow, what's your thought on this? They're talking about SAM in this video a little bit. You see Sam talking about registered, an overview of minorities and our status. Chime in, tell me what your thoughts are.
Can you hear me still?
Yeah, I can hear you very clear.
It's a very simple process. Register your business with your state. Go to secretarystate.gov, whichever city that you're located in. Once you do that, 7 to 10 business days to get back your articles of organization. Once you get back your articles of organization, you're able to apply for your EIN electronically online. You cannot get your EIN before you register your business because those two databases are tied together. So once they recognize, they're going to ping over to the articles of organization to the secretarystate.gov servers and see that you've registered properly, you paid your fee. You turn around, you get your EIN, you go up and open up a bank account. You got to have both of those types of documentation to open a bank account.
Because a lot of people don't know what EIN means. Explain that.
Oh, that's your employee identification number for your business.
Okay, stop for a second. So you guys, that's your social security number for your business. So a lot of times when you apply for loans or something, they'll ask you for your how you say it again?
What's actually the tax identification number, TIN and EIN.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, so you get those things in. It's like a 7 to 10 business day turnaround for most LLC registrations. Get your EIN right after that. Once you get those two documents, you can go down to a bank and open up a bank account and a corporate bank account, whether it's an S Corp, C Corp, or however you file it. So once you file that, I'm just giving you the tools you need to actually to be qualified for a federal contract. So those are the basics. You get those two things in place, then you turn around and you register with Duns and Bradstreet. This is a requirement for the federal government that you're registered through Dun and Bradstreet, which is the reporting vehicle for businesses. Also, they used to be separate, but I think they've consolidated now. You also have to do Paydex, which is sort of like FICA for your personal credit score. And that's the tool that, or the application online that monitors your business credit score activity. Once you have those things in place, now you have the tools to go and apply for the federal government jobs. Now, it'd be nice if you have some experience. If you've already worked in your field and you go to them with experience, now you're able to go over to SAMS.gov and you can apply for basically register with them to say, hey, I'm a new contracted business and I like to participate in the set aside programs. And then they're going to want to know what credentials that you have. This is why it's important that you understand what 8A certifications are and all the other certifications that are out there for minorities. So you have to look at your particular situation. If you're a minority business owner owning more than 51% of your business, you're eligible. If you're a veteran and you own 51%, you're eligible. If you're a woman, minority, you're eligible. And you have to have those credentials. So when you go, you can actually have more than one of them. The more, the better. Get the contract. Now, they cost money. And that's what keeps us out of this game that they have set aside in for people. It costs sometimes $1,200 to $2,500, but you have to pay to play in the system, and that discourages most businesses because we don't have that kind of money sitting around. So, but if we're willing to go to the club and buy Jordans and all these different things, $200 and $300 a pop, you won't set aside opportunities to set your family up for life. That doesn't make any sense to me. So, what I would say is you take on this initiative to try to get one of these contracts, because I do have people in my family that have those contracts. Some of them make $15 million a year. So they are very real.
Whoa. You're saying that Black people have contracts of a level of $15 million a year, possibly plus?
Yes. And this is not heavily advertised because the truth of the matter is we're the designated buying class. The $2 to $3 trillion that we spend on all types of stuff, from tobacco, alcohol, shoes and everything else, cars and all that, we're that designated class. So no one wants to have you learn about the system when they're making their money off you. This is why we don't know. So
after they get the contract, then what they do is they're able to, after they get the qualifications, because right now we're just talking about qualifications.
Right. Well, you get yourself in the door with the SAMS folks. And now you're registered with SAMS, and then they're going to check to make sure you've dotted all your I's and crossed all your T's, and they put you in the database. Then once you get into the database, there's several federal platforms that you can actually query. One is SAMS.gov itself, SAMS.gov. Another one would be CDFA. I think that's the correct name. Yes, CDFA. And that stands for, give me 1 second. I have a web link here. Let me see. I don't recall the exact name of it, but it's CDFA. If you look that up online, you'll see that that's a federal registry as well for contract solicitations to the public. Another one would be BidSync, BIDSYNC. That's another one. And the last one that I know of, it slips my mind right now. But anyway, we need to be flooding these contract opportunities with the government after we meet our basic credentials to even qualify. And then from a political standpoint, we use those numbers to tell the government, hey, we have 500 companies applying for a lawn care service contract at a military service base. Why haven't any of them been approved for Black folks? You make this government look in the mirror at itself about these set-asides, and see they can't be challenged because we're under this minority banner. So by the mere fact that we're under the banner, if they give the contract to anyone else that's a person of color, it's like saying, look what we did for Black people. And that's the problem that we have. So we have to separate ourselves from this minority status. And Shirley, you and I have talked about that. We need to have a new caucus that is specifically for Black people, where specific set-asides go for what we need so that we can better our people. And I'll say this lastly, Shirley, you showed me a document where the Asians and I think Pacific Islanders had put together an executive order literally talking exactly about this. They want more participation in the set-aside programs, as if they don't have enough already. Where's our voice telling this current administration we need to have set asides, better participation in the set aside program for Black folks? Because right now, by them putting their voice out there like that, and there's more contract money to be given, we're gonna be inclusive in that, even though we haven't even gotten anything. Because it went under this banner.
T, there's a lot of people in the chat room saying, like, you know, I don't have any money to start something like this. Or they'll say, we need to go to the bank. There's a lot of questions on that one. What's your thought on that?
I'm glad you said that, because there's a lot of things that we can do, Shirley, that's solution driven, that is literally free. I'm gonna give you a good example. A company like Facebook, a company like LinkedIn and Twitter and Instagram. A lot of people are not familiar how these companies started and how they actually generate their money. They're just a collection house of your followers. This is how they make their money. They let you set up an account for free. All right. Then they ask you a bunch of questions about, do you like iPhone? Do you do this? Do you like that? This is data that they take and turn around and give to those companies' advertising departments to say, hey, for example, Coca-Cola. I have 5 million people on my Twitter, Facebook platform that drank Coca-Cola. What value does that hold to you in terms of your marketing department to reach out to 5 million people? And they might be like, oh, you know what? Well, we were going to spend $6 million to try to advertise to that many people. But you know what? We'll do a deal with you and we'll give you 3 million. You see what's happening here? So what we need to do is, it's easy to set up a social media platform. Literally, groups of Black people need to have their own social media sources. And the way you do that is you come off all these other platforms, because all you're doing is empowering them to make more money from you. Because what ends up happening is they become vacuums to market to you. So what is our solution specifically? We need to have our own social media housing nothing but Black folks or people that support us, so that we can participate in this community, set up something similar to Facebook, a social media network, which is what I'm currently working on. Have our people join that network. So then when we raise the money from the advertisers, okay, because the banks won't lend to us, all right, we're the buying class. They want to take the poor minimum wage dollars and have you recycle it back into these companies. So what we need to do is we need to get at the table. How do we do that? We get our own social media platform, bring in those marketing dollars from these companies, whether it be Target, Gap, because they're all advertising to us to spend our checks. What if we took a set aside of that money and said, you know what, out of the money that we raised from our own platform, we turn around and become a venture source. We invest in our own people to open up shops in their companies. We actually leverage our financial situation, so they literally back them so they can go and get loans. How about that?
I think that's brilliant. I want to chime back just a little bit, though, going back to the certification. You're seeing that people need to have their own LLC first before getting the certifications, right?
Say it again. I'm sorry.
I'm going to chime back just a little bit to I want to try to break it down a little bit more basic for the family, because you're throwing a lot of great, amazing nuggets out there, and I'm going to chime in back and bring in 007. But let me say this to the family: get the like buttons and share this video, because we're trying to talk about strategies. Again, Black people are dying, bad nutrition, bad health. Stores aren't giving us the best access to our cleaning and our things that are needed to help and better us. And we have no leverage because we have no power with government for voices for ourselves. What tomorrow's talking about is setting ourselves up so that we're an entity that have the money so that we can leverage. But I want to chime back a little bit tomorrow and go back to LLCs and corporations. You have to be a corporation first, right? An LLC with an IN number, right? Before we can go further and get in a contract. Is that what you're saying?
That is correct.
Okay, so hold your thought. So family, what I want to do is show you a website. Get your pens and papers out. Get your handy dandy notebook. Well, I'm going to show you how to get started for $49. $49 is the first step you need to do. And this is an idea. I know because I've worked with this company. I think they're great. I'm not endorsing any particular company, but I think they're a good one. So I want to show you. It's called Zen Business. Listen up.
At Zen Business, we're revolutionizing how people start and grow their companies. You're an entrepreneur, and the only thing standing in the way of you and your new business is the administrative work to set it up and manage it. Unfortunately, it's complicated. There's complex paperwork, confusing acronyms, legal procedures, and endless decisions to be made. Some services promise an easy solution, but saddle you with upcharges, delays, and hidden fees. Zen Business is changing the way people start, run, and grow their business. We've made it fast and easy to get up and running using our innovative online platform with no hidden costs or bureaucratic red tape. We use technology and automation to keep our costs down and pass those savings on to you. Zen Business is revolutionizing how people start and run companies. That's why we've set a goal to launch over 1 million US businesses over the next 5 years. Join us and let us help you bring your new business to life today.
Okay, so let's talk about Zen Business. I want to show you guys something about this company. If we look at Zen Business, you go online. I've really enjoyed them. I've used them. And what you do is you sign up. They have customer service. You see, yes, they have our people engaged with them as well. You can start for $49. They'll do your business filing service, register you with an agent, an operation agreement, or you can get to the next level where they'll do the E&I number. Now, E&I is really easy to do. And you could do it yourself to save money. But if you say, you know what, I want to go for the full package, I want it with the E&I, and I want no worries, they're going to go ahead and do all that part. And let's say you don't have a website. I don't have a website. I don't have a domain name. I don't have the paperwork. I don't have the E&I number. For $2.99, these people will do all of the semantics that are needed to make this work. They'll create the machine for you, including the website. After you have done this $2.99, you move to the next level, is what we're talking about, the set-asides. We're talking about the set-asides and the government programs that are operating out there for minorities to move forward. I want to play a little bit more of this video, and then I want to bring in 007.
To that, I'll close up with a couple of remarks about SAM registration and government contracting in general. So, what is it and what does it mean? First, a little background. Under the Small Business Act, 23% of federal government contracts are required to be rewarded to small businesses. In 2011, for example, out of a budgeted $477 billion, $109.71 billion worth of cash contracts went to small businesses. So there's plenty of cash up for grabs for minority-owned small businesses. Now, 5% of that federal government contract budget is allocated specifically to businesses that are owned by members of economically or socially disadvantaged groups. This is part of the 8A Business Development Program, which aims to help organizations owned by members of minority groups remain competitive in the government contracting market. In addition, there are also specialized statuses for women-owned businesses, veteran-owned businesses, people with disabilities, and young entrepreneurs, to name just a few. All businesses must show a demonstrated potential for success, more on that later, to qualify for minority-owned status. So it's a real mark of distinction. In short, the 8A Business Development Program aims to foster diversity and competition in the marketplace by reserving a portion of federal contracts for minority-owned businesses. Next, we'll get into a little more depth about the requirements for organizations that want to register with the program. How can I qualify? You can take a look at the full list of requirements on the Small Business Administration's website, but I'll give you a brief overview here. The main requirement to qualify for minority-owned status is that the business is majority-owned by individuals who suffer from social or economic disadvantages. The SBA specifies such groups as African Americans, Hispanic Americans, Native Americans, Asian Pacific Americans, and Subcontinent Asian Americans.
Now, I want you to understand, it started off saying African Americans, and I know it's it's not alphabetical order because you have Asian Pacific Americans down at the bottom. They always pivot off of us. But guess who ain't getting this? The number one line. 007, talk to me. Why is that number one line not able to utilize the SBA to even in the crisis of COVID-19? 007, tell me, what have you gathered from listening to from tomorrow and this video right now? What's your thoughts?
My thoughts basically is I think we're less educated about what's going on. Do any of us know where SBA is? And pretty much, I remember, some years ago they moved the SBA contracted all these banks to manage their loans, and SBA itself used to actually, they had people actually would directly talk to you, but when they started having representatives at banks, I think that's when we took a major loss. But at the same time, today, and what you're asking me is basically, I think we're less not in the know about it. If we want to start, if we want to start doing anything, we need to start from our youth. And don't get me wrong, college is great, but I also know everybody can't go to college. I think that we need to really start incorporating, entrepreneurship in the schools. Because the thing is that if anybody know, I mean, when I was going to school, they taught you how to cook. They taught you how to balance a checkbook. Well, they don't do that anymore. And then from that point of people, having all these resourceful courses, and not only just cook and teaching you how to balance a checkbook, but they had programs on how to fix a car, agriculture. They had so many things where you can go into a trade. And from that trade, people start their own businesses. But it seemed like the schools today are basically directed towards going to college.
Well,
And
are the millennials really even trust the school system? Because the ones who are in college, like my kids, I got college kids, they already know the college can be a trickery situation. And here we have something, it does not matter if you're old or young. That is what tomorrow's trying to put across right now. We're talking about actions that we don't have to say, well, when I was younger, I wish I could have, knew, woulda. You ain't got to do that right now, bro. We can talk about it now.
Right. Yeah, that's
the actions now. Here's an action that you take. But this is my question. Hold your thought, 007. This is my question to tomorrow. Tomorrow, we got an issue. COVID-19 said that SBA's got all this money out there, people can apply. Wells Fargo said they're not taking any more applications. Let's say you do everything that you said. I got my certification. I'm already in LLC. I got everything that you said. But guess what? I'm Black. I'm a Negro. And Chris Roof Steakhouse, they got their check. Cheesecake Factory, they gonna get their check. But Big Papa's Ribs ain't gonna get that check. He did everything right. What's the next step tomorrow?
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that. Well, what people don't understand is that the SBA process is not just in the bank. There's SBA sources in federal agencies. You have federal agencies like the CDC, Public Works, you name it. All of them have set aside budgets for basically skill sets that fall within the parameters of what they do. So let me give you an example.
As well.
Exactly. Let me give you an example. On every military base has a small business administration office. They actually have set asides in their budget, and a lot of people are not even aware of that. A military base and installation in your community has set asides as part of its mandate in that community to generate wealth for that local community. So if you don't believe me, type in Small Business Administration, United States Air Force, Small Business Administrations, United States Navy. You will see that their pages will pop up. What people don't understand about our federal government is they don't actually do anything. They contract everything that we provide, that's provided to the public, as service. So public works, all that's done through contracts. That's why you have sub and prime contracts. A lot of the times when you see a prime contractor, there may be some specific set of skills or knowledge they don't necessarily have tooled up in their business model. So they go out and they find someone who can provide that and fulfill that particular skill set that they need. So they bring them in as subs. So they do the primary job and the subs do the alternative work that they need to have done. So what I'm saying to you is, rather than go through the banks, if you can't get an SBA loan through a bank, you go through a small business administration office and they will help you. Their job is to make sure you get the contract because they have budgets that they have to dispense of every single year.
So
if they don't
understand something, and I'm not as knowledgeable as you are. That's why I brought you to. You guys are experts. You're ex-military, and you have the information that we are so grateful for in our family. You guys, make sure you get the thumbs button up. Please share this. If you're on Facebook, share this on group pages because this information is important. Black people are dying. We don't know the strategies of how people are leveraging economically through us, and that's what we're talking about right here. But T, let me ask you this question again. Most people think if I want to get an SBA loan, I go to the bank first. If the bank won't take my application, I'm hearing you say there's other offices that I can apply through to get an SBA loan without going through the bank. Is that what you're saying?
100% correct. Good example would be like on a military base. Let's use them as an example. They have lawn care services. That is a huge contract. So they hire outside people to come on. This is their contribution back to the community. So on their own listing and requisition request, they might be requesting, does anyone in the community have lawn care service skills? If you ever noticed, if you've been on a military base, you might see Hispanics out there cutting the grass on the military base. Those might be like $10 million contracts. They might have that contract for 5 years.
Whoa, that's a lot of money. But so how can I get on a military base? Can I just drive up and say, hey, I want to apply? I mean, there's steps to do that. They're not going to let me on any military base. Just let me drive up. I mean, how would I do that?
All those credentials that I initially mentioned that you have to set up your business, to be registered with SAMS and all those things, those are requirements to even be considered. So once you have those things, they have what they call a small business administration network that's on those web pages at the U.S. Air Force's Small Business Administration Office.
Mm.
Well, you know, I
have
wanted
in almost.
Oh, go ahead,
Go ahead,
brother. Well, I was going to say, she was saying how to get. You know, we have L.A. Air Force Base out here, and Shirley, if you wanted to approach that, LA Air Force Base do have an SBA. I know exactly where they are, but for you to go on that base, you got to stop by the office first, where I think it's called the security office.
Yes.
And you go ahead and you show them your driver's license, and you can get a day pass to go on there. But you got to tell them, you got to quote your business, state your business, and why you're going there.
Yes.
That's
very true.
So if go ahead, brother.
No, I cut you off. Go ahead.
Now, if you want to go, Shirley, that would be a way to acquire any SBA help, is to first start that, from what I was just saying. You know, tell them why you want to be there. You know, you want to speak to the specialist. It's usually a civilian person that's heading that up. I used to know one of the ones years ago, but I don't think she's probably retired now. But LA Air Force Base is always doing something with the community.
Absolutely.
Go ahead.
I'll say this about the military infrastructure. They're mission driven, and it's a lot less personal whether or not you're black, white, yellow, green. They just care about the mission. So if you have a service that is going to fulfill the mission that they're mandated to address, and you bring the proper credentials, they're going to give you that opportunity. Now, there's ways around that contract too, and that's through the SBA small office at the military base. Like you said, you have to go with some credentials. They're going to state your business, as you said. And what's different about them is, once you tell them why you're coming there, and they look at the need that you're providing, because they have a list of all the requisitions, and if what you're telling them fits under what they're looking for, they will see you. And the only thing about it is they're going to have an open window and an open date when those contracts have to close. They have an open date and a close date. So here's the unique thing about those contracts. If you're the only person that signs up for a particular contract solicitation through the government, and no one else is on that contract trying to get it, they're going to give it to you by default. They've had that happen before in Washington, D.C. There was a young lady that she was a cleaner of a federal building. She applied for the contract. She was Hispanic, and no one else applied. I don't think they really fully advertised it. And by the time the closing date came, that contract landed her $30-something million. So within that money, she was able to fund and scale and do everything she needed. And they put her on a probationary period. And then after the probationary period is normally like 1 year, she got a 5-year deal, $36 million. So it can happen. You just have to be in the game. You got to be at the table.
And this is real talk, family. I think it's interesting. I was listening to the chat room. Ronald was saying it's a lot of bureaucracy. It really isn't. It's steps that we need to. I need you to watch this video again. We're giving you a lot of golden nuggets out there. We're giving you the landmine, the gold mine, and you have to take steps to do it. Go ahead.
I really wanted to say that I had a buddy of mine that offered training services. For the gym. He got the contract. Because it wasn't by default, but he got the contract. And it was based off him being a veteran, but at the same time, he got the contract for 5 years. So I mean, he was he had all his license and everything. So I mean, really, that's probably the easiest. Going on base is probably or military base, like they're mission driven. Um, that's probably the easiest thing because people are very intimidated by military bases, so people don't approach them.
I'm going to drop another nugget for the peoples on the call so they understand that probably that's the best route to go for a startup. And I'm going to tell you why. Let's say you're in a retail and you want to open up a store on a military base. You, like he said, you contact the military base, you state your meeting and your purpose of wanting to meet with the management. They're going to get a general idea by talking to you on the phone. If they are interested, they're going to bring you in. So let's say you go to the military mall, you meet with the general manager and their staff, and you say, hey, I have a new clothing line, for example. And I think this will, it's a gear that's breathable and it's great for the military community and the athletic people. And of course, you guys are mission to keep people in shape. So this is a great product. And they buy into it. They're going to first start you out with a process of a short-term contract. So they'll get you on there and you might be there week to week and they'll see how your sales are. All right. One thing that's unique about that is there's no upfront cost from the military. All right. The rent and all that normally you have to pay in a normal store, you don't pay that on a military base. Doesn't exist. They actually they provide the space for you. They also give you the electronic equipment, the POS and the processing stuff through their own systems that they use. And then they withhold at the end of each week, whatever money that is, whatever you agree to. I think it's most around about 20%. So basically your overhead is on the back end. You don't typically find that in business. So then it's based off performance at that point. They'll look at you, compare it to maybe someone else is doing something similar for them. And if your numbers are good and they decide, hey, we'd like to keep you, they're going to give you an extended contract. Hey, would you like to do, or you can even suggest it. Hey, I'd like to become a permanent contract person. It's the same scenario where you don't pay any overhead. It's paid for you. The only thing you have to bring is insurance for your products. The security is there on the base. You don't have to pay for nothing. I'm just shocked that we haven't flooded the Department of Defense with all their set aside contract opportunities. And you can do this in any area. If you're a doctor and you do family service counseling, you can apply for a contract. Right. And you have to see where there's an opportunity. They may say, well, we have an opportunity for a psychologist in Alaska, and this is how much we're going to pay. If you agree with it, there you go. You're in there. Now, let's say you do well on that contract, and that contract pays you $120,000 a year, and you want to scale your business. I want to put contracts somewhere else. They will set you up where you can have literally a franchise all over the military, everywhere that they're located, if they need you. It's based on need, mission driven.
It's also the same with VAs too. The VAs have some similar program,
Right.
But I mean, because people come there and they sell veteran hats or veteran wear, or they even sell household products. You can go through their canteen, in which that's where they have an SBA office in every or SBA representative in every VA. So I mean, I see people, do it all the time, and so you talk to those people, some of those people, the same people are on the base. They know how to get around, because they know the system.
Well, this is the part. We're talking about the system. We're talking about real money, family. We ain't talking about 9 to 5. We're not talking about minimum wage. We're not talking about prison reform. We're not talking about abortion. We're talking about money. Because in order to have leverage and pull and have a voice on the table, you have to pull us together, pull us as a pool of people, a group of people to have empowerment. We need more of us to say, I've got my certification, I've got mine.
Exactly.
What's the problem? Now,
exactly.
But we can't even get to the level of the next level because we don't have this. And if you are listening to this video and you say, you know what, email me and say, Shirley, I already got my certifications. If we had at least 5 to 10 people and you would be willing to be a template for us, because you can say, I've done everything they said. I ain't nothing new. I know this already. And you watching this video and you're finding out you're being blocked, you need to contact us, because we need to put you on the platform that you represent the rest of us who not only don't have the basics in place, but you've gone through all the mazes and the hoops and the court, and you can't even score a basket. That's a problem. Let me continue on. Hold on, gentlemen.
However, it's not absolutely necessary that an applicant be a member of one of those groups. The main requirement is the ability to prove both social and economic disadvantage. So as long as you can prove that your business has suffered on account of bias or discrimination, you've got the potential to qualify.
So that means you don't have to be a black person, or you can be a white man. See how they show this white man? He's being disadvantaged right now. Is everyone in America disadvantaged because of COVID-19? Let's all say yes. So now set-asides apply for everybody. Let's continue.
The other requirements are fairly straightforward and include the requirement that the business must be a small business, principals must be American citizens who show good character, and that the business must demonstrate potential for success, defined in detail in the link. Proving potential for success is the most involved part of the registration process and can take as long as 2 years. Note, for businesses owned by American Indians, Native Alaskans, Native Hawaiians, and certified development companies, there is another set of requirements for minority-owned status. Why should I register? You may be wondering why you should register for minority-owned status. You've already got a competitive organization, don't you? Why should you bother with all the fuss and red tape involved in applying for another government registration when you're perfectly able to compete as is? First off, just let me mention that 5% again. 5% of government contracts are reserved for minority-owned small business. So if your company fits the bill and you're not registered, you're kissing any chance of competing for that share of the market goodbye. Remember, there was almost $24 billion in government contracts in 2011. If you're one of those great-hearted souls that passes up a chance at that slice of the pie, that's your decision. But I think you're the type who jumps on an opportunity when you see one. And if that's not enough reason for you, minority-owned status gives you exclusive access to many other competitive advantages. The SBA offers specialized training programs and mentoring to registered organizations free of charge. You also get admitted to opportunity fairs and networking events through the National Minority Supplier Development Council. Don't you think you should grab the chance? If you're still here, I'm assuming you're interested in taking a closer look at the registration process. So that's where we'll be going next. How can I register? Granted, working with the government means a lot of paperwork, but it also means the chance to compete for exclusive contracts, so it's worth it. The SB Guide to 8A registration and annual review covers the process in more detail, but I'll give you a quick overview here. Feel free to skip the next couple of paragraphs if you've already registered with the System for Award Management. The SBA recommends that you start out with Module 1, Setting Expectations, to give you a clear idea of whether or not your business qualifies. After that, you need to get copies of all important documents, such as licenses, operating agreements, stock certificates, etc. Then, you'll need to get in touch with Dun & Bradstreet for a free DUNS number and with the IRS to get a tax identification number, TIN, or employer identification number, EIN. Once you've gotten that prep work done, you'll need to register with the System for Award Management, SAM. SAM registration is a requirement for all government contractors, so you'll need to be registered for that before you register for minority-owned status. It's a fairly involved process registering for SAM, so make sure you're prepared. Now that you're registered with SAM, you can get a login to the SBA system and begin the free application for 8A minority-owned status. If you run into trouble at any point in the application process, feel free to visit your local SBA office. Finding government contracts. After you've registered for SAM and 8A minority-owned status, the next step is finding the government procurements themselves. These are easily found on Tenders Page database, where you can find as many as 50,000 private and public daily tenders, all ready for your bids. We've even made it easier for you by adding a filter to let you jump to the set-aside tenders. And if you choose to, you can receive specific bids in your mailbox daily.
Okay, so I'm going to jump back to the group. What the purpose of me in showing you this is to give you an opportunity to listen to men who have served in our armed forces, who are telling you the problem with our people is money, and the problem of our people is not utilizing, I'm going to use that word, reparations that have already been set aside through minority and capitalist programs through the government, because we don't know about them. And why do we not know about them, family? It's because we're not communicating. But thank God, many of those who are following, you guys get the like buttons. I only got 20 likes. You can help me out. Put some more likes in the like buttons. It won't take you in. It doesn't cost you much. And the more people that like, the more you know, the more you grow. The important thing is that you share and provide information that can make a difference in our community. As thank you, Tamara, for chiming in. I appreciate you coming in. I know he's a busy man. He's a man on a mission. He also was ex-military, special divisions and operates, and he was able to provide us with that information. Oh, he's coming back in. He had chimed out. Gentlemen, after we've explained to our people, again, a business, zenbusiness.com is going to set everything up for you. You need to do everything that Tomorrow had mentioned. This brother has been thorough and on point of what we need to do. I'm going to move into hypothetics, which I never like to discuss on hypothetics, but we have to because right now COVID-19 are killing Black people. If we've done everything that we just discussed regarding the requirements and opening up businesses, why are we still on the bottom of the totem pole? Because we know there are Black people. You mentioned that you have family members tomorrow. We know Black people have contracts. Why are they need tax write-offs? There's foundations given out there. Lawrence Jones, shout out to Lawrence Jones. I appreciate Lawrence Jones. Lawrence Jones said something that's real thorough. He was talking real talk. He said, look, this is what the Black Business Association is supposed to be doing. They're supposed to enforce. They should be on the forefront for us, but they're not on the forefront for us. Ronald said maybe it's the Veterans Organization Administration. They should be doing something for Black Americans. What is the situation here? We've got a lot of people who think these other organizations should be setting up at least some kind of agenda or format. Is that true, gentlemen? Should that be?
007,
Well,
you gonna chime in? Go ahead.
yeah. Well, yeah, they do, and I'll be honest with you, they have. I've been to. I'm sorry. I've been to uh, conferences where the VA, also the Department of Defense. But here's the thing, I think it has a thing to do with who, and this is why I say, who people are rocking with politically, or how they are in the know when it comes to businesses, in terms of how involved they are in their community and how involved that they are when they really want to really do something that involves opening up a business. I know the VA goes that extra mile. The military bases. I know people that actually go to conferences, and I remember like out here we used to have what they call the Black Expo. They were there, but we don't have a Black Expo anymore. So it's the I would say out here, we really don't have uh, any other than Black outlets that are really fostering Black people to get into businesses, and that's something that we have to do. That should be a conversation. That should be a conversation to your representatives, and you got to force them to force that into the community, because if you're not going to say anything, then there's nothing going to be done. But I have been to conferences all over the United States, out of the United States, and I do know that the Department of Defense and the VA actually try to. I mean, if you go to Baltimore, it's just different. But I know when you get here, it's just really, it's who you're pretty much rocking with, who's your congressperson, your councilman, you know, out here it's just really a poor, poor for information, a lack of
Out
information.
here meaning 007's talking about California. We have D.
California.
Well, California. D. D, thank you for chiming in. D, I have never met or spoke with you before, but I see that you wanted to come in and you wanted to say something. You've got your computer on mute. So what would you like to say, D? You have to unmute yourself.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi, I'm
How you
just
doing?
joining in, so I'm just trying to catch up here.
No problem, sister. Tell us who you are and where you're from, and what you share your thoughts.
My name is Demi Haley, and I'm currently here in Atlanta, Georgia. And I just want to, observe and get some of everybody's input and what's going on currently. With COVID, our communities and everything, it's just so much, you know, and I'd love to be able, to join in and, try to come up with some form of resolution, you know, for us all. Um, it's a real difficult time, you know, and I'm trying to get abreast of what's going on. So forgive me. You know, I got a lot of stuff going on, and I was just invited in. So yeah.
No, I
I don't
appreciate
have
that. I mean, Georgia has a different perspective. Tomorrow, you want to chime in on? Are you familiar with Georgia and what's going on there or anything?
Yes,
I
not in detail, but what I wanted to
right.
address some of the comments by Ronald in the room. I just want to let him know that the stuff that I'm talking about regarding business opportunities isn't just exclusively for veterans. Yes, I am a Black veteran, but that's open to any type of business, any specifically Black people that have businesses. So you can be a civilian and have a Black business as long as your mission and your service is in alignment with what the military needs on a military base. That's fine. If you have a business that isn't necessarily within the military scope, but it's within the community, they invest in that as well. Let me give you a quick example. If you are a developer in real estate and you have the knowledge to develop and flip and rehab properties to turn into places where military families can live, that in itself is a contract. So you'd have to find out through the Small Business Administration on a specific base, is this a current need that you have? If they say yes, then you qualify. So hopefully that provides some clarity to you.
Absolutely, absolutely. 007, what's your thoughts?
I agree. It's not just for veterans. It's but the veterans, the VA, DOD, they're very open to civilians. Because I can remember when housing was ran by DOD and it ended up being ran by civilian corporations. So it's more military people are looking at moving off base than staying on base. So if you have a need and you're into you're in real estate, then hey, I'm sure that's an ongoing thing right at this point in time because more and more people are coming from all across the world and the United States to live and they're in the military. So if you are a real estate developer, put your paperwork in, as we always say in the military.
I want to add on to that, if I may, Shirley.
Go ahead.
Let's say that you're not a seasoned realtor or whatnot. You're just brand new and you happen to have the minority status and you know someone who's a developer. They have something called a mentor protege program wherein you both need each other. So you can have a firm in your city that's worth $200 million and they're trying to get a federal contract in a space that you occupy as a minority. They can use you to get to that contract and you use them. And that's how it works. So you'll find, if you look that up, mentor protege program, those are available for contractors who don't have a lot of experience, who are brand new. So you can cut into that 2-year window to get approved. They're going to base the knowledge off, the approval of the contract off of either one, a company that's already had a federal contract, or two, a company that can demonstrate that they have the ability to perform at the contract standards. And then also, when is the need for that particular contract to be fulfilled? So if any of those credentials are met, they will create a prime and subcontract relationship between you and that company. So what happens is you become the prime. You have to do certain things as the prime because you can't manipulate the government and have them pay somebody else doing your work. As long as you're doing the job, they don't care. It gets done. And then now when you move forward, having done a great performance on that contract, you can become the prime on your own.
So for those who might have just chimed in, and I know we're providing a lot of information, and you see the title, it talks about Blacks who are dying of COVID-19. We're talking about money, power, and position. And we have two ex-military gentlemen online, and our guest D, who's chimed in, and she's trying to come from a perspective of saying, how does that service us dealing with our own people? And what we want you all to understand is that if we don't have people of money positions to make a voice at the table, we ain't gonna have no table because we ain't got one. And the table that's already there, we're not utilizing. We're talking
Well,
about utilizing the things on the table. Hold on, I want to read something to you real quick about where Blacks are with COVID-19 as of April the 17th. Hold on, gentlemen.
Black residents in New York City are dying from the novel coronavirus more than any other racial group, according to data released Friday by the city's health department. There have been 1,999 deaths known to be of COVID-19 among Black or African American people in the 5 boroughs, according to the data. Black people are twice as likely as white people to die from the novel coronavirus and more than twice as likely as white people to have a non-fatal hospitalization, the data shows. Fatalities among Hispanic or Latino people were the second highest in the city, with at least 1,696 deaths, according to the data. At least 1,861 white people have died, making them the third most affected group in terms of fatalities. Deaths of Asian people were lowest, at 463.
So if we're the highest fatality, why hasn't the federal government put some type of demand on the table? Like we talked about economic executive empowerment. Why is there no financial empowerment set aside for us, gentlemen?
I would say there's no political will to do so. It's similar to what happened, in my opinion, when you think about the Tutsi and the Hutu tribe, genocide, where the government moved out. There was no incentive for them to do anything. So same thing in our community. We don't have a political voice. We don't have money, and you can't, because you have to buy your politics. Politics aren't free. You can't hope
Hold on.
politics are going to
You're
work
going
for you.
kind of fast, bro. You're going kind of fast. What did you just say? We have to do what?
You have to purchase your politics. This is why you have Politicon, Politico, C-SPAN, and all these big political platforms every year around election time. These people are setting the stage to purchase their political positions with how the treasury, with how the money is going to be spent that's collected from taxes for the corporations, because it's a relationship between corporations and business. So if we don't have a bunch of businesses, like Shirley said, and we're not owners, because these are the people, this is why Mr. Trump is having business roundtables all over the country. He's not having Black folks roundtables or Asian roundtables. It's the people who are owners. And unfortunately, a lot of the people that are the owners are the Asians and the Arabs and the Jewish, and they're there for business. So we have to have a place at the table with a placeholder that says we are a Black business group.
And as a Black business group, we have to make a difference at the table. Hold on, you guys. I want to show you something real quick. If you can look at your screen. This is, I talked about executive power. We're talking about monies that were allocated. President Trump signed an executive order of economic empowerment for the Asian Pacific Islanders, May 13th. And I had great concerns for this because the Asians are very established, as 007 will say, in California. They got the well hookup. It started with Tom Bradley and his invention, and it just kept growing from there. And they get millions of dollars for small businesses, as you can see right here. And you guys can go to the White House website. This is the White House website that talks about economic empowerment. Now, hold your horses before you start throwing stones at Trump. I want you to show you who started this and how it came about. Let me just let you hear the first part of this, and I'm going to tell you what president put this together.
The White House Initiative on Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders is a United States governmental office that works to empower Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders, AAPIs, to improve the quality of their lives, raise the standard of living of their families and communities, and more fully participate in our economy. The initiative also works with the Native Hawaiian community. The initiative collaborates with the White House Office of Public Liaison and designated federal departments and agencies to increase AAPI participation in programs in economic development, commerce, business, education, health and human services, housing, environment, arts, agriculture, labor and employment, transportation, justice, veterans affairs, and community development.
Now, when a president puts in place an executive order, I want you to understand this is not a law. This is a law based on that the president has commissioned this. And so that's why every year the next president has to step on board and commission it. So it's not an automatic thing for them. They have to go back to the next president and say, oh, we want this to be extended or we want this to be expanded. However they go about it, it wasn't a one-time deal. I want you to show you the history. This is the history of this. And it started with what administration? Can someone put this word in the chat room? What administration started this? It started with what administration? Oh, it's the Clintons, the man who claims to love Black people so much. It started with the Clinton administration and the executive orders and the directives and commissions and the priorities. And then it went on to the Bush administration. Then it went to the Obama administration. And fast forward, the Trump administration. See, even when it got to Obama, you think that Negro, so-called Negro, was going to think in your best interest. Look, his administration could have done something like what you just heard. Let me play the second half because I know the men want to chime in on this. But I have to make it clear that you understand this did not start with Trump. It started with the Clintons. And that's the sad part.
The initiative seeks to highlight the tremendous unmet needs in AAPI communities and the dynamic community assets that can be leveraged to meet many of those needs. The initiative focuses on cross-cutting priority areas that span all issue areas and agencies, including advancing disaggregated AAPI data collection and dissemination, workforce diversity, ensuring access, especially linguistic access and cultural competence for limited English proficient individuals, and building capacity for the AAPI community. The initiative also works to encourage AAPI involvement in public service and civic engagement opportunities.
Why do we not have something like this in place? That's all I want to know. Why hasn't any of Maxine Waters, Karen Bass, Sheila Jackson, all them Negroes in Baltimore, all them Negroes in Mississippi and Alabama, even in Texas, why them old school Negroes who everybody love and adore so much? Well, why didn't Joe Biden? He's been in office a long time. Let's not count out white people. I keep mentioning Negroes. Why is the good white people Bernie Sanders? Why Bernie Sanders, who was a senator for decades? Why has he not fought an initiative for our best interest? I'm gonna tell you why. They don't give a rat's ass. You ain't nothing but a Negro. You on the bottom of the totem pole. You just a nigga to them. I'm gonna straight out call the word what it is. Until you get a shake and someone to strangle you and grab your shoulder and say, you need to wake up. Because we are displaced from our own ignorance. Here it is in black and white online. Here it is on the website of the president of the United States. This current administration has signed this into a place May the 13th, 2019 to continue on with another administration under the Clinton administration. And you get mad that you ain't getting nothing because you ain't seeing how you being played. I showed you in that video, it says anybody who is dismantled, dysfunctional, or in a situation that's destitute for them, they can apply for these contracts. So is it really a minority contract anymore, family? I would say no, especially now since COVID-19. So, I mean, we're trying to game you up because now everyone's going to say, I'm dispositioned. And who's to say that they're not right when they look at the applicant because they applied and we're not even on the table? Somebody talk black to me. Come on, Vicky Dilla. Let's talk to the family. Somebody out there. Tamara, what's your thought on what I just shared?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
I feel like what we've talked about over and over again in the last 3 years that I've known you, that we need to have a caucus that speaks specifically to the needs of Black people. And it's nothing against anybody else because these other caucuses are doing the same thing. They are advocating the government for specific needs for their people in the same way you just produced this document that showed Pacific Islanders and Asians. You see nowhere in there where they talk about Black folks. They're talking about the needs of their people. And specifically, they mentioned 8A certifications. They want a bigger footprint and opportunities in that space for set-asides. So we don't have anybody currently in government that is speaking about set-asides specifically for our group. Then it's a disservice to us. And yet at the same time, you're asking to drive a Black vote to put you in office. And I think that's like shooting ourselves in the foot. We need to have a voice. So before 2020 elections, Shirley, you already know where I'm at with that. I think we need to form a caucus and we need to have a petition in place with almost every Black person in this country And this is what Malcolm X was talking about having a block vote. If you want our votes, and we need these things in our community because we're hurting, we need to participate in the new economy. It's a reset of the table, and we need to come in as manufacturers. We need to come in with set aside protected class businesses in our communities. Same as Indians. They have set aside businesses in California, in New York, in Nevada with casinos and hotels that they have non-compete situations where other companies can't even be within a certain distance.
Hold on. You brother, you throw so much gold mine out there, I'm getting swamped. Say that one more time.
I simply said we need to have set aside protected business zones the same way Indians have it, and they've had it for decades. So why isn't there a black voice in government that says,
go back to non-compete? Explain non-compete.
Non-compete clauses and contracts represent a business, for example, in a particular city. And let's say that you have two businesses in a city, and they both sell the same thing. Well, you don't want them to compete against each other. So a particular contract can be written in a way that says, hey, I sell your product and this other store sells this product. I want to make sure that the consumer base that I'm targeting in my area won't be impeded upon by your business who sells the same product. So they will not permit another business that competes against you to be in a specific area. So by convenience, you're more likely to get their business of that consumer base. And that's called a set aside in terms of restricting other companies to be able to compete against you, so you can actually enjoy your profit margin and your growth from that designated area that they've given you.
That's some deep thought right there. Didi, I know you're still in the group, possibly. What's your thought on this, Didi? Let me go back to 007. 007, what's your thought on this?
My thought basically is I think we need to become more aware. And going back to, we do need our own caucus. We need our own caucus for our own interests. You hear no other caucus other than the current Black caucus talk about everybody else and advocate for everybody else. Obviously, they're not doing the work for us. We need to let them go, and we need to create our own. We need to be aware, more aware than we are now. Not only that, right now, I honestly, this COVID-19, this is the best opportunity for anyone to start a business. This is the best. This is the best opportunity. Hey, I lost my job, and I thank God that I get a retirement, but at the same time, I have a lot of friends that has been employees, and it's just that being employees, here's an opportunity time where a lot of jobs were lost, a lot of jobs can be gained by someone owning their own business. And there's just a massive opportunity out there for us right now. We should be front and center while the getting is good. I honestly think, because right now, I feel, this is my observation. Anybody can say they disagree. Right now, the government feel bad about what people is going through. Let's take that they feel bad, and let's start moving forward. This is a prime opportunity with this COVID thing. That's what I got to say.
There's profit with pain, family. There's an opportunity to be profitable during the pain of a pandemic that is worldwide. But if we don't listen to what these family members are saying right here, these ex-military men and those of us who are trying to chime in to provide you another mindset to dealing with COVID-19. Maybe you say, I don't want to go down the business route. I want a now answer. Well, the now answer is to look at your situation and regroup yourself. One of the sisters who I talked to on the line, Angela, you saw her last week on the video. She said, Shirley, I need some extra money. I said, you need to go be shopping for old people. And I'm going to get her on the show. You know what she did, y'all? She signed up for Instacart, Instacart. I'll let her come share her story. But she told me after she got a good rhythm and learned how to start picking up groceries, she said, Shirley, I was averaging $350 a day She says, I realize this is an extra $30,000 to my income I did not know about. I didn't know about. She said, thank you for making me push myself outside of my box. Instacart. It's free to sign up. Go look at that. When we look at the stock market, oh, go ahead, 777. You want to say something?
You know, do anybody got a backyard? Because right now there's getting ready to be a food shortage, and right now, if anybody got a backyard, man, it's going to be probably a food shortage for about a good year to 2 years. Okay, so
and you're saying because of all the hoarding. Explain that. Because
not just the hoarding. I don't think a lot of people know that, and that's unfortunate. But we're sending a lot of food over to China right now because their food source has been contaminated, and so we're sending a lot of food over there. And right now, the USDA is looking for farmers, more farmers.
Well, did you know that there's a shortage of chickens right now? People have been ordering baby chicks online because they can't get eggs in the store. See, let's talk about that, y'all. Family, we're trying to bring you up. 411.
Yeah.
You need to.
Well, if you go to the market right now, there's not a lot of eggs on the shelf. There's no eggs on the shelf. There's no eggs on the shelf, and I mean, and I'm just saying, if you got a home, even if you can start a little something with what they call bucket. You can start with a little bucket and growing something, peas. But what I'm saying is, it doesn't cost anything to get in these farmer markets. People are looking for some food. Okay, so I mean, if anybody gets started, I mean, I'm not saying the weed thing, that's fine, but at the same time, food could sell no matter what.
So what I'm hearing you say, let's say you got fruit trees and you always have extra fruits. You could grab bags of fruits off your tree and barter with your neighbor, or let people know, hey, I got fresh lemons for $1 for a bag or $5 for a bag. You got to utilize what tools you also have at home. Another thing I wanted to bring to the table, gentlemen, is the stock market. As we know, the stock market has crashed big time. And Tamara, what's your thought on that? Do you think Black people should be investing maybe in the stock market and buying a little bitty stock, just a little bitty stock, leisure, especially like I said, the airline industry or the cruise line industry? There's a lot of stocks that have tumbled, and if we could take $200 or $300 or $500 and invest in those and just watch to see what that would do. What's your thought on that?
Shirley, I think we have to take a focused approach. I understand the stock market is tempting, but it's very volatile. And if you don't have the money to invest in the stock market and at the same time can afford to lose it, I wouldn't even bother with it at this point. What we need to do, in my opinion, is we need to take a route that makes the most sense and is economical that everybody can afford. What I suggest, and this is something that I'm working on with a colleague of mine, and that is we're building a social media platform that's going to be different than some of these other social media platforms. It's similar to LinkedIn, but it's for Black businesses. And what we need to do is we need to get every Black person that is obviously business savvy, wants to start a business, has a business already, or people just in general who support, wanting to see Black businesses thrive. We need to use that and leverage that to establish a social media platform. And I'm pretty sure we can get millions of people to do that in our community over time. It's going to take some time for people to know that we're out here. We're actually developing that now as I speak. So once that comes online, it's going to be similar to LinkedIn, but we're going to turn around and we're going to reach out to all of these advertisement departments, from Coca-Cola to Gap and whatnot, and say we have all these Black people on here that are customers at your stores. We'll do the same thing that Facebook did. What value is that? What's your marketing package and how do you pay for those? And we're going to have them pay us. And then in turn, we're going to turn around and be a venture source to Black businesses. We're not going to get into the tech space. We're going to get into traditional businesses that everybody that has in their communities, barbershops, car washes, and things like that aren't ever going to go away. We need to keep that. We need to own that stuff in our cities. These are revenue generators. I don't care how poor you are. You're going to get your car washed. That's just how our people are. So we need to be owning those spaces in our community so we can start to build up and have money cycle in our communities. We need to have a source to go to where we can get money for small loans and not have to be turned down by banks. So that's what we're getting ready to do. We're going to use the system's money to finance our people, plain and simple. And if anybody supports that, we're going to be running that through Shirley. I'm going to be working closely with Shirley because we need to create a political arm from that, because you have to buy your politics. Shirley's into politics. She cares about Black people. I do too. It only makes sense that everybody's on this call should be wanting to support that. This is why you're here having this discussion, because you're concerned about Black folks. And lastly, I'll say the reason I want to focus on the economics is because your economics determine your livelihood. And right now we're allowing other people to determine how we live. This is why we don't have the proper services or inadequate services in certain areas, because when it comes to financing and funding through the cities and their councils and whatnot, we're the last on the list. How do you change that? You get to the table and you be a business. You have an arm and you have power, you have revenue to buy your politics. That's what we have to do.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Dee Dee, you're still on the line. What would you like to say? We're moving towards the end of the show. Dee Dee, do you have something that you like? I know you chimed in and you took the time. Dee, thank you for coming on. Your mute button is on, but is there anything that after you've heard what we said that you'd like to share?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. I totally agree 100%. I think that, you know, we as a community, we need to get on board and we need to get moving and start creating those businesses and start taking charge and doing what's going to be best for us overall. Because at the end of the day, you know, the other groups and whatnot, they don't care if, you know, if we flourish or if we fall.
Say that again,
now,
girl. Say that again. Who? Say that again.
The other groups, they do not care if we fail or we flourish. We're last on the totem pole. We've been that way for decades, centuries, and so on and so forth since we've been brought over here to the US and everything. So we're not even a thought. And truthfully, you know, if we never make it, nobody ever looks, nobody's taking the time, nobody cares about us. So the only way for that to be changed is if we as a community and a group as a whole, if we press forward and we step up and do whatever it is that we need to do to make sure that we're successful and growing and just, you know, just shattering this ceiling. Because, you know, it really bothers me, and it makes, I really feel a certain kind of way, because, you know, I look at my community, I see my people and whatnot, but, you know, over time, it's just, I also see there's not a lot of push. They feel so, I don't know, you know, they feel so beat down, bogged down, you know, from generations and stuff. And it's just this but it's not the end of the world. So, you know, we have to step up and we have to start somewhere. And if we don't start, then, you know, nothing's ever going to change. Nothing. So, you know, I do agree, you know, with what has been said about us, you know, creating these businesses and starting this network and everything, and, you know, taking off from there. I totally agree, but we do have to get together, and we do need to create that group, and we need to get at the table, and our voices, we need to be heard, you know, but we can't just keep sitting and just taking, just sitting there and just, no. When is enough enough?
And let me say this to you, family, and I appreciate each one of you. Thank you, Dean. You're so smart.
Yeah.
All you guys are so great. Listen, we have a lot of people who do a lot of talking for us and say they represent us, but we don't see any execution. Solution and execution are two different things. a talk and a comment and getting numbers up and looking great online and being an activist. And, we overly emotional anyway. Woo, woo, woo is great. But like Tomorrow said, what good is that if the communication lines are not penetrating to the people in actions? And the actions is good. It creates results, and results lead to change within our community. And at this point, we are in a really time warp. This is a wonderful time in American history for you who are still alive, who are still healthy, whose minds have not been suppressed and not waiting just because of the check of the federal government or their state governors are allocating to you. This is a wonderful time in America. If you can wake up tomorrow and have a bright idea to say, I'm going to go and start a small business. I'm going to follow Shirley. I'm going to watch Tomorrow and 007 and D and keep seeing what's going to happen on this show and what's going to happen in my life. Because some of us don't have access to power. Now, for those who may not know me, I am the 2016 surrogate and delegate for President Donald J. Trump. I'm the one that made the announcement for the entire state of California. I was the first African-American woman with her children standing behind her. My sons are grown men, by the way, or her sons behind her, representing an entire state of California and a delegation for the administration in California locally to the new administration that's in place for President Trump. Those who are part of the Urban Game Changers executive directors, shout out to Willie Larson, who's watching on Facebook. We were on a White House call in conjunction, and I think Tomorrow was on that call. I don't remember. I don't know if 007 was or not, but there were the leaders. We have 13 to almost 25 leaders nationwide that are asking me, Shirley, what do we do? What is our next step? And the White House is asking us to give them the next step. We're asking them to give us direction, and they're asking us to provide a direction to give them. So this is a yin and yang situation, because obviously someone in the Asian Pacific Islander community sat down with Bill Clinton in 1999, I just showed you, and said, look, we need some money, we need some structure, and we need some set-asides. We need to build our economic platforms. We need education on the language, and we need regions and districts set aside for our people. Black people, we've already got communities, we've had districts, but they have leveraged and they have eroded into our community. They've eased in our community. They've smalled our platform. When we talk about minority businesses, you have a pie, like a sweet potato pie, and the slices are given away to those who apply. And you heard Tomorrow say, we don't apply because we don't know. And now that we know, what are you going to do with this? Because knowledge is power. So if you got a conscience, cut a check and invest in yourself. And stop whining, stop eating out, stop drinking Starbucks and all these other things that you can do. Stop smoking so much damn weed, Negro, and start putting that weed money aside and invest into yourself. Some of you guys are going through emotional and physical withdrawals because you are quarantined. I get it. I get it. But it's about you. It ain't about nobody else but you and your family. And if you ain't got your back, and if you ain't got your family back, you just another dead nigga on the street. I'm sorry, I'm going to be 411 with you, because I have talked to people from the White House to the government, from the state to the local level. I have been in politics since 1996. And I can tell you, being a surrogate and a delegate for the state, and if you want to look at my LinkedIn background, I have been heavily involved. But right now in this administration, they love the young people and they love the activity in it. But those who are us who are seasoned, all they care about is vote. And that's how most politicians are. They only care about the vote. And they only want to appease to keeping people calm and happy. But all we are is loud and no actions. They don't like us loud. If we become loud as far as an executional loud, what is an executional loud? That means that we've put something on the table and we all start sharing this. And we start going from platform to platform to other YouTubers, to other Facebookers, to people who are Twitter, who are live streaming on Instagram. And we're talking about, have you talked about what was told about having some type of economic empowerment, for the Black community? And if we get together, we can make a difference. Now, on the bottom of this email, you see this says my email, let's talk solutions, shirleyhussar@gmail.com. if you're serious about joining our team and you're not just perpetrating our sabotager, we want you aboard. We want to know what you can bring as far as solutions, even money, because we're going to need money to advertise what we need to do, get out there about these are the proposals that we need on the team. We need to have some type of empowerment, economic empowerment to deal with COVID-19. I'm not going back to 1619. I'm not talking about slavery. We're not focusing on that. We're focusing on the fact of what 007 had mentioned earlier. When you go to the stores, we don't have the right things in our community. That we're getting the last of the totem pole. The trucks drop off to us last. That's a problem. We don't have healthy nutrition. That's a problem because of how we've lived our livelihood. 2 tacos for 99 cents. Come on now. Come on now. It's hard for us sometimes to get a decent meal because food's so expensive. It's so expensive. And we've become part of the Lyndon B. Johnson stimulus package governmental program, Negroes. But no longer will we be that way. COVID-19, everyone is in a pandemic. How will you use the pain for profit for yourself and the community? Because if you can do that and set aside your personal differences, your political party differences, and set with some logic, I want you on my team. If you're full of bullshit and you just want to rant and be an emotional wreck to dysfunction to our group, you will be cut off because we are in a pandemic right now. And we need African Americans who get it, who can cut to the chase and be thorough. As you can see, these brothers are. They're military. Military have procedures. They understand how government thinks. They were Borgs for the government. When we talk about Star Trek, these men were Borgs and thinking tools for the government. And so what we're trying to do is get ourselves to be a Borg of African Americans, descendants of slaves, suppressed totem pole people, to collaborate and stick ourselves together so that we can penetrate as one unit, one voice, and one mind. I want to give each one of my panelists 3 to 4 minutes before we close out. And we'll start back with 007, move the D, and then we'll finish with tomorrow. 007, what would you like to say in the next 2 to 3 minutes?
I would say that this is the best opportunity right now to start rethinking what direction you want to go in, because it's open opportunity right now, whether you see it or not. It's open opportunity. So take the time out, think about what you want to do, and if you are entrepreneurs out there that really want to do something, here's the opportunity time, because a lot of businesses are not coming back. So that means that's opportunity for you. I'm not saying that's good for a lot of Black businesses, but at the same time, here's an opportunity, on the information that you got today to do something for yourself. That's it.
Totally agree. D, talk to me. You have 2 minutes, D. Tell us what you'd like to say before we close out. You got to unmute yourself, girl. Okay, she pushed the wrong button. Tomorrow, go ahead. What would you like to say?
Hello, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, I'd just like to say, I don't know how often you do these live broadcasts, but I'd like to thank you for inviting me on this one tonight. So I'll get with you offline about the next scheduled one. And what I'd like to do is I like to put actions to words. I'm going to bring in a representative of a group of about 60,000 followers. I'm going to see if we can get them all on the call and listen in. And we need to start this petition, and we need to start this endeavor that I'm trying to put together, so that we cannot just leave here tonight knowing that we don't have a plan, that there are some people like myself that are actually trying to move forward and do some things to help Black people. So that'll be my next I guess goal, is to get on that call with you and try to put some traction behind what we like to do and be the example, versus just someone on the call listening and enjoying what's being said and then don't do anything with the information. So you'll see some action from me.
That's awesome. I appreciate you chiming in. It really does make a difference. And I look forward to you on the call tomorrow. It really makes a difference. Thank you so much for chiming in. As I said, family, for every action is a reaction. For every non-action is the aftermath. Let's let this pandemic of pain be a profitable aftermath and a new beginning for a nation of people that have been suppressed, put down, and put on the bottom of the totem pole. My name is Shirley Husar, Husar. You can follow me at shirleyhusar.com, and you can also follow me on shirleyhusar@gmail.com. Make sure you get ready for the Urban Game Changer family meeting that we're having tomorrow night. You have to email if you want to be part of the solution for the petition that we're putting together. Black people are dying at a number that we could never imagine in our living U.S. history. And for those who are living today, not the days of old, but the days of now, there's a new movement of devastation happening in our community. And unless we wake up, unless we put our names and our thoughts together and come as a unit, nothing will make a difference. No one loves you unless you love yourself. Make sure you keep your head up high and look forward to talking to you soon. Thank you so much for following and watching. Make sure you subscribe and like this video. The more likes I get, the better exposure I get. Please share it on a platform. Like it before you leave tonight. God bless you and good night.